player Will.
Welcome back, Visions fans. Ready Player Will here. I know it's been a while. I've been on vacation out in California. I was having microphone issues for at least a week, and so now finally getting back into the cadence of some reviews and some updates just in time for the Final Fantasy Tactics release later this week, I guess. But before we get into that, let me at least talk about the Halloween in the Starlit Sky. It's the limited Halloween Vision card released last week alongside Halloween Alaya. Give some Vision card thoughts. If you've pulled it already, this will hopefully make you feel better about that decision, or worse. Or if you haven't pulled it, maybe this can be some food for thought whether you should or not. Now, let's look at the card just as a jumping off point here. So this is a card that covers 3 different classes. It's the Mace, the Spear, and the Sword Red Mage. It is a magic-oriented card with the 164 magic in the primary base stat there. The bestowed effect is 18% magic stat to the user. For Halloween Alaya in particular, we do have the upgrade here too, where it gives her 10 AoE resistance and 10 magic attack, but that is only to Halloween Alaya and technically Halloween Frederica, but it's irrelevant for the analysis of this card. The party effects for those 3 different jobs is 24% physical AoE wide resistance. That is the highest percent in the game thus far. 20 human killer upon magic attacks and 20% magic resistance as well. And for the dual game mode, it's also 30% for everyone in the party. And the additional hollow effect for duel in general, this one is slightly noteworthy, where when you acquire this card, you will on duel style gameplay get 2 lightning attack modifier, but more than that, 1% reduce magical damage taken, which sounds very small, but that permanent 1% in all kinds of duel modes, you'd be surprised how much it adds up, particularly against some of these follow-up attacks that we're seeing. Not amazing, but worth mentioning. And so the way I want to approach this is obviously just quickly looking at some of the units just to get a feel for how widespread the application of this card might be. And you know what? There are a lot of units that I like on here. Gilgamesh immediately stands out. Some of those staples like Summer Glaciella and Young Owl and even Soul, who have had some play in the last 5 to 6 months, stand out here. Brahmada, as well as Thunder God Sid and Halloween Alaya, both lightning units that are going to ramp up in usage here. Earth, Wind, Light, and Dark, I don't think it's necessarily anything to write home about. For Wrath of the Dark Element, though, I do think this is a relatively solid card. She's not a unit that has any kind of real AoE wide res within her kit. And so those of you that might still use Wrath, yeah, this card's a pretty significant upgrade for her durability, which is very important as a tank. But let's look at how prevalent physical wide res is within the game of War of the Visions, generally speaking, and there are a couple Vision cards that already have it on it. The Duran Vision card that just came out, the Lucille Vision card, the Garuda, and then the newer Sodali Vision card that came out as well. The highest among them is the 20% on the Duran Vision card. The rest of these are 16%, and the glove-oriented one is only for Guild War that you actually get that 12% physical wide res. So that one isn't even all kinds of game modes, so small asterisk on there. But some of these classes that are on the Halloween Alaya VC already have duplicates at this point of other alternatives. Spear and Sword Red Mage both have now, with the Halloween Alaya card, 2 cards in total that they are able to use for physical AoE wide res. And yes, that is still a card that we look at as a primary slot card. It's one of those things nowadays where you have a couple different choices. You go for the regular AoE res, could go for the physical AoE wide res, or the magical AoE wide res. And it really depends on the meta that you're seeing, but you still see Sephiroth everywhere. Even units like Cloud and Cypher and the incoming Garusa, this will definitely help a fair bit as well. But when I think about the 3 classes on the Halloween Alaya card in particular, Spear, Mace, and Sword Red Mage, to me, when I look at Spear, this is their second, where the first one is the Garuda card, which is amazing, but this new Vision card just has completely different rainbow synergies, where the Garuda card is Katana and Staff Black Mage, and this one is obviously Mace and Sword Red Mage. And to me, this is just another way for Spear to be splashed into a variety of teams. And the same argument is basically there for Sword Red Mage too, where the Lucille card, while they do have it for Sword Red Mage, slightly more niche in terms of how the crossover is. Obviously, it's objectively not as good from a percentage perspective, but Sword Red Mage also has some amazing rainbow units like Summer Glaciella incoming here, Agrius and Thunder God Sid, and even Gilgamesh is a great rainbow unit too. The thing for Mace, for me, is that they have not gotten much love in the last, 6 months or so. And so when thinking about the potential future of Mace, it doesn't take much. If they release another amazing Mace unit or 2, this card could certainly be a staple in some of those teams as well. And Spear and Mace already have some of the best synergy here, so this card would only look to amplify that grouping. Now, not mentioned yet, one of the most important things is that there's an ability on this vision card, which does affect its valuation, in my opinion. Now, it's an amazing PvE ability, in my opinion. That's where I'm really thinking of this primarily, where this is a 20% AoE imperil. It does have a scaling modifier depending upon the number of enemies in the AoE, going anywhere from 200 to 250, and it's got the chance to inflict slow, and that's why I like it for PvE, because when you're approaching any kind of high score content, when you look at the boss, usually either susceptible to the slow status ailment or any kind of CT debilitation, so agility percent down or CT down. And so this card will virtually allow you to bring in any mace equipable or mace sub-job unit and allow them to have access to slow, which should give some real nice versatility to what teams you might approach PvE with. Now, I have heard for some of the top scores in the game, they have recently completed it without slow. That's not the norm for the majority of the player base though, but for those that are really in that game mode, honorable mention that I think the recent high score did not include a slow capable unit, but there is still more to this than just that status ailment. I do like the 20 AoE imperil. It's arguably far more variable than any kind of percentage crush, particularly considering not all PvE bosses have AoE resistance. And so in the instances where they don't have any AoE resistance or maybe very little of it, that percentage crush will only bring them close to zero but never below zero. And this imperil will potentially bring them below zero, which is a damage amplification, which is why it's also good for PvE scoring. Now, it does have two casts, which to me does make it a fairly viable PvP ability too. Arguably not the strongest point. I think its upside is better for PvE, but there's no cast time here, which is certainly nice for those maces equipable units where some of these units do have cast time problems. The fact that you can now give them an ability like this and have them use it on cooldown, certainly very nice. So this definitely has to be considered. So my verdict, should you pull? The answer is maybe. I hate to do it when this is the case, but for me, this is a yes pull if you pulled Halloween Alaya. Listen, if you pulled that unit, this card goes hand in hand with her. That you're not going to really get anywhere close to her ceiling of utilization unless you have this vision card, just because of where the status of Mace vision cards in general. If you do regularly use Ramada or plan to use Thunder God Sid with the new tactics release as well, this is a card that links them up with a variety of others, and so I do like it very much if you are leaning into that lightning angle with either of those units. If you intend to be semi-competitive in PvE scoring, this also seems like a no-brainer vision card. We've seen how often these special vision cards are in team building to achieve those scores, and for me, Gilgamesh is special in this regard. The Ice Gilgamesh here, that if you love that unit, want to help him go for longer, this is a vision card that's going to extend his life potentially, where the physical AoE wide res, the magic resistance, but the magic man killer also is great for him, where you can splash him into different teams but still retain that offensive potency not only on his abilities but his follow-up attacks as well. Where it's a no for me, Mace units aren't that great. So to me, this is basically a two-class vision card at the moment. But if you're a heavy Wrath user, if you do have Halloween Alaya, as I just mentioned, that does open some extra doors. To me, the other side of it is that the unit bestowed ability on this vision card is not something you'll miss later. It's 18% magic. There are some vision cards that have a really healthy agility percent on it, or maybe some AoE or unit res that, as far as rainbow cards go, that unit bestowed effect does still have some value, that even if you put it on someone that's not part of the classes, they still get those unit bestowed stats and can kind of make up for it. This card does not have that, so this to me is not an amazing rainbow card like some of the others are, and there's no other special stats either, where some vision cards have agility points on them, some of them have dexterity or luck stats on them. This is pretty basic in what it gives you for the stats overall. So for me, that's kind of the distinction that I'm making between these two groups, whether you go yes or no. Obviously, we will get a rerun of this card, but it likely will not be till next Halloween, so if you miss it now, you're kind of out of luck until that time. And so this is the angle which I'm approaching it at the moment. Hopefully all of this was still insightful, informative, and if you've pulled it, hopefully you're getting some good usage out of it. I'm sure you're likely using it with the new Halloween Alaya if you are, but if not, maybe this can convince you if you haven't already. But still, you have a lot of really great stuff upcoming too. Really depends on how well situated you are with the Final Fantasy Tactics collab in terms of, do you need to pull those vision cards? Do you want to pull those units? How do you want to spend vids to reincarnate them? Are you going to skip or pass on Garusa now that we know what the 5th anniversary is bringing with Final Fantasy X-2 and all of those units? So that's kind of an economical decision that really only you can answer, because to me this is not a must-pull category. It's really account specific, but hopefully I gave you enough that you can kind of make that decision for yourself. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll talk to y'all soon.